After a tough loss to Manny Pacquiao, Errol Spence gives Keith Thurman some credit. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also, subscribe to the channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the gang, notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Now, I'm still in Las Vegas. I decided to stay an extra day, kind of on vacation. Make sure you guys subscribe. I hope you guys enjoy some of the coverage for Pacquiao-Thurman fight. Some people are even saying it's a fight of the year contender. I definitely enjoyed the fight. I thought it was good, sustained action. And Pacquiao, he proved he's an anomaly and he's a historic legend in the sport at age 40 to do what he did and defeat an undefeated fighter who's strong, who's athletic, who has amateur experience like Keith Thurman. That was pretty big. Now, I've talked about the good, the bad, and the ugly, on my breakdown, and I'll continue to do so probably this week. But Keith Thurman also did some good things in there, considering, this was his second fight back from really a long layoff and these types of things. And it just goes to show you that boxing is crazy. It's a crazy sport. And just a year and a half ago, more like, because he was all gone for a while, 2.5 years ago, right after the Danny Garcia performance, I think Keith Thurman would have easily been favored to beat Pacquiao, but things change, and Pacquiao was losing to Jeff Horn. People were writing him off. Boxing is crazy like that. But I thought this was interesting, and I wanted to make a video. Errol Spence has given Keith Thurman some props. I do think Keith Thurman definitely deserves props. I see a lot of people dogging him and saying he's this, that, and the third. But I'm gonna go over what Errol Spence said and then kind of give some additional thoughts. You guys see on the screen, Errol Spence says, Thurman is tough as fuck. A lot of guys would have dropped off that body shot Pac-Man hit him with. And I think this is a fair comment and a fair assessment. And this is actually great when your peers are giving it up. The world knows Keith Thurman lost. I don't think Keith Thurman himself is even disputing that. He said he lost, Pac-Man was the better person, etc. But Errol Spence, he's openly said, I don't really have a problem with Sean Porter. I just think he's corny. But personally, I don't really care for Keith Thurman. I dislike Keith Thurman more than I like Porter. He said something to this effect. That's what Errol Spence said. So with that being said, for him to give it up, and he was in the crowd and watched the performance and not shit on Keith Thurman, that this is good. I like the sportsmanship, and I think it's a fair assessment. I do think Thurman, he gets a lot of flack for certain things. People just, it's boxing. It's like, what have you done for me lately? People go over the top, say all kinds of bullshit. I'm hearing people say Keith Thurman has a glass chin. Like, he got knocked down off a fast ass sequence in the first round. In a round he was winning otherwise, but Pacquiao's just that quick. And I did an interview with my dude Stam, who's formerly sparred Pacquiao, and this is precisely what he said. He said Pacquiao, he switches gears and is very hard to read, and it's just out of nowhere. And you've seen Keith Thurman, I don't know how badly he was hurt. He might have got, it definitely woke him up. But nonetheless, it's great to see Errol Spence give some props to Keith Thurman, because he did take a nasty body shot, and we know that's kind of his kryptonite. That's been Keith Thurman's kryptonite. Now, since we're talking about the welterweight division, we're talking about Errol Spence, and we're talking about Keith Thurman, I do have to mention, because I try to keep it a buck, I said this for the longest on my channel, and the real ones who fuck with my channel will attest to this. I told you, I think Errol Spence would beat Keith Thurman. I think Terence Crawford is a more difficult fight. And the reason being, Errol Spence, he's a hellacious body puncher, and he's relentless. And, he took Kell Brook's best punches. We haven't really seen him wilt. You get what I'm saying? So that body attack, that sustained body attack, would cause major, major problems, from my view, for Keith one-time Thurman. But now we don't even know what Keith Thurman, intends on doing. He said he's not fighting for the rest of the year. Pacquiao's not fighting the rest of this year. Spence, he's still gunning for the big fights. I went to his press conference with Sean Porter. The full press conference and bits and pieces have been spliced up on the channel. If you like those, share them. Hit the like button. We working, we come to take over the game one video at a time. Lance Pugmire of The Athletic, he also said this: Just saw Errol Spence Jr. on his way out of the Skyloft near Manny Pacquiao. I asked him if he's going to leave Pacquiao alone. He said, oh no, he looked good, just like the old Manny. So Manny also has said himself, I don't want to retire. I'm on a high note. I still got good fights. The fans seemed entertained. You know, we're doing sellout crowds. So I don't want to just pack it up. But with his senatorial duties and stuff, it doesn't look like we'll get, you know, a Spence or anything this year. So we're going to have to wait for that. But I'm all for it. The welterweight division, we all know Al Heyman, you know, has most of the welterweight fighters. And I will add this. On the telecast, I seen that they had a graphic drawn up and it had all the champions minus Terence Crawford. They didn't have a graphic of Terence Crawford. So a lot of people are angry. And I get it. I think it's petty. But we've seen this with HBO. They did the same thing. You know, I'm pretty sure we can go back and pull that up. You know, Jim Lampley was constantly hating on Al Heyman. He even did like an anti-Gotti list or some bullshit, constantly hating on the PBC and say Al Heyman ruined boxing. So it's just a petty move. Me personally, I don't prefer it because you can't overlook Terence Crawford. He's a factor whether you like it or not, you know, whether you put the graphic up or not. So it looks a little bit, you know, disingenuous to act like he don't exist. And it's not real. I mean, how much more promotion are you giving him? Either way, Crawford's probably going to fight Meme Machine at home. So he has to generate the interest with this fight, showing his graphic on the Pacquiao Thurman card. I mean, for 2 seconds, I don't know what that really does. It's not like you're promoting his new mixtape or something. You get what I'm saying? So I think that, me personally, I think they should have just slapped Crawford's picture up there on the graphic to show the full picture as opposed to just the PBC guys. But again, we don't hear all this crying from the fans and the outrage and the fake, you know, the fake outrage when it's the other way around, when HBO was constantly talking about PBC, when a lot of YouTube channels are constantly berating Al Heyman and saying PBC is this and that, you know, whatever. But I like what the Pacquiao Thurman did. It was a fun fight. I think it lived up to the hype. I think Fox did a good job promoting it. And I'm looking forward to what the future holds. Obviously, Errol Spence, he's in a tough fight. He's in a good fight. Rugged, relentless Sean Porter. At the press conference, my view, he looked much bigger. He looked confident. Sean Porter sounds very confident too. So I look for that to be a completely different fight than the Mikey Garcia fight, but only time reveals. But the winner of that could definitely move on to fight Pacquiao, and I would be all for that. Pacquiao is now the WBA super champion. It's good to see Errol Spence give some credit to Keith Thurman, even though they're kind of sworn enemies. You know, I'm using that word loosely, but they don't particularly care for each other, or at least Errol Spence said he doesn't really like Keith Thurman. So it's good to give him credit. I think people got to back off of Keith Thurman too. You know, a lot of people are just coming down like he had a horrible performance. Broner said he got cooked and stuff. I don't think he got cooked, because I think he did good late. He was off to a rocky start, because Broner, he didn't do as bad, I guess you could say, but he wasn't, like, his face wasn't all fucked up, like cut up and shit like that, like Keith Thurman's face was. He didn't get dropped like Keith Thurman, but Keith Thurman also fought toe to toe, you know, and he fought in the pocket, and he was coming for it. And it's good to see a guy like Errol Spence give some credit to that, to his peer, even though, you know, they might not have the strongest relationship, him and Keith, and that's a foe that he wanted to fight. But I do think Keith Thurman ultimately let his hands go a lot more, and he still came up short. I still think he's a good fighter, and that body shot, it's clearly a vulnerability. It's clearly a kryptonite to Keith Thurman. He doesn't like that body work at all. There's no denying that aspect of it. However, you got to give him credit. He was hurt in the Jose Cito Lopez fight. He got hurt in this fight, and he kept trucking, and he kept throwing punches, and he kept trying to make his game plan work, those types of things. So he still has the championship grit. He can bounce back for it for sure. I think a lot of people are over embellishing. Pacquiao's a legend. You know, guys like Floyd and Pacquiao, you're almost expected to lose to them. You know, they have a ton of experience. And I think that caught Keith Thurman off guard. So definitely a learning lesson. Mentally is going to be the ultimate test to see if Keith Thurman, how hungry did his loss make him hungry back to the old one time or what. But Pacquiao even gave him props. He said, Keith, one time he's strong. he is a strong puncher. He's good. So Pacquiao knew he was in a real fight. It was a good fight. I want to see the numbers. And even guys like Errol Spence is giving Keith Thurman his props for even surviving that. Whereas a lesser champion or a lesser fighter or challenger against a legend already getting dropped, they would have mentally checked out. Thurman, I don't think he mentally checked out. He was throwing punches. He was trying to work himself back in the fight, and he arguably did and made the fight closer, which is why it was a split decision. Pacquiao looked good, especially at age 40, but I do see Pacquiao has slowed down a bit because back in the day, for whatever reason, Pacquiao could keep those crazy energy levels for 12 rounds, but then now, about the halfway mark, he slows down dramatically, and that's when Keith Thurman probably had his best rounds and best moments. And he was stinging Pacquiao with that right hand. He was setting it up with the jab, and Pacquiao was getting caught. But Pacquiao has a good poker face, a veteran experience, so he kind of knows what to do to, survive in those moments and not give the opponent too much confidence. Overall, very good fight. Good to see Errol Spence and Sean Porter officially announced and be a part of the press conference. I'm glad this happened on the West Coast in LA. I got a lot of stuff coming. Boxing is lit. The welterweight division is lit. They did leave Fox pay-per-view or whatever. They left Terence Crawford off. I think it's petty, but it doesn't change the fact that Crawford's still a dog and a good fight. And ultimately, if Errol keeps winning and Crawford keeps winning, that's the fight people want to see. Let me know what you guys think. Errol Spence giving his rival, who he wanted to fight, Keith Thurman, some props. And shout out to Manny Pacquiao again. True legend. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. Baby, we working. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button. And you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.